This is not financial advice. I'm not a registered financial advisor. Jesus. The Jia Hao, as they say in China. Wow, am I looking so handsome today? Ugh. Welcome to the video. If you enjoy it, like and subscribe. So, I have a lot to cover today. Um, Hopefully, I can get through it relatively smoothly. Whenever I'm thinking about doing one of these videos inside my head, it always comes out nice and clear and organized. But then when I actually start recording myself, things in my head start getting jumbled up. Hopefully, after some more experience, I'll get better at it. But anyway, we're going to talk about the big dump we had in the markets this week. Wasn't it wonderful? On Thursday, there's like a big fire sale on Bitcoin and most of the stock market. Did you buy the dip? Oh, I did kind of. I should have bought some Bitcoin. I wish I had bought Bitcoin on Thursday, but unfortunately I didn't. So I'm in Vietnam, and so on Thursday I went to sleep like in the middle of the trading day, and I think at that time Bitcoin was still around 65,000, and I sold a bunch of my Bitcoin or sold a bunch of my crypto, mostly Bitcoin at the beginning of the year and some last month, but mostly like the first week of January because I was kind of anticipating this bear market. There's usually a bear market in the year after an inauguration year. And there's also usually like a big fake out in January. So when prices were pumping in like the first week of January, I started selling off. I probably, like I said, it was, I sold not all Bitcoin, some XRP, some Ethereum, some Solana, but it was mostly Bitcoin because Bitcoin is mostly my crypto portfolio is made primarily of Bitcoin. I'm gonna take a drink of my Sting energy drink, which you get here in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. It's good. It's like 11 a.m. here, and I didn't sleep very well last night. Woke up around I think like 6:30 or something. Went to bed around a little before midnight. That's the first time that's happened in a while. I have been sleeping well. Like Friday morning, I woke up I think like 8:30 or 9. I think the day before I woke up at like 10. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so anyway, I sold a bunch of my crypto, like enough to last me 2 years here in Vietnam. I figured that'll probably help me get to the next crypto bull run. And when I say a lot, I don't mean like most of my crypto. I still have most of my crypto. I think I'm still a whole coiner. Yeah, I think I probably sold at an average price around 91, 92,000. Yes. Uh, and I was kind of thinking of, I mean, my plan was always to buy back in when Bitcoin reached a certain low point. And that low point to begin buying back in was actually going to be $60,000. And apparently, while I was sleeping, Bitcoin did have like a flash crash to below um, $60,000. Unfortunately, I didn't have like an order to buy because I didn't think it was going to happen that fast. My plan was to, when Bitcoin got closer to 60,000, I was like going to buy a subscription to Kraken Plus, which gives you it's only like $4 or $5 on Kraken, and I believe it's like no fees on trading up to the first $10,000. So my plan was to wait until Bitcoin got close to 60,000, get a subscription in Kraken Plus, and then put an order in. But fortunately, Thursday it flashed, crashed to below 60,000 uh, while I was sleeping, and then like the next day it was pumping. Like that was yesterday. It's Saturday right now at the time I'm recording this video. And on Friday, prices were recovering. So why did this happen? Let's just talk about that, I guess. So I learned about this watching Cryptos R Us video, basically last night, would have been Friday morning in America. And then he saw Sam from Financial Friend reported too, just coincidentally a couple hours after George from Cryptos R Us reported on it. He didn't mention that he got it from Cryptos R Us. Maybe he didn't. Maybe it's just a coincidence that he reported on it a couple hours after George did his live stream. But anyway, apparently what happened was this exchange in Korea called, is it BitHum or Bithum? Bit BitHum, I think. Uh, they were apparently planning to do like an airdrop to their users of like 2,000 of their, I think, Korean won coin, which was valued at about $1.50 each. And instead, I guess one of the staff members who's in charge of that got confused and they accidentally airdropped 2,000 Bitcoin to their users. So instead of sending users like a coin that was worth $1.50, they sent them a coin that was worth like $65,000. I think it was like $130 million instead of $3,000. Can you imagine? I guess they should probably maybe change this H to a D. And like George is saying, this kind of caused a panic because, these people are down. We're like in the beginning stages of a bear market, and you suddenly get a windfall of $65,000 Bitcoin. What are you going to do? Like George says, you're going to sell it. That's what happened. People started selling these Bitcoins like crazy. And it kind of caused a chain reaction, I guess, that caused the price to start dropping and then caused leverage positions to get liquidated, which caused the price to drop even further. So it was still dropping when I went to sleep. And this also had like an effect on Michael Saylor's strategy. I guess it was reported he was like $4.5 billion in the red now on his company's Bitcoin treasury. So this caused the price of STRC to fall, I guess. Well, it caused Strategy's price to fall. What's it called? I don't know. Their primary stock. Strategy. They have like their main stock, which is STRY, I think it is. I don't have any of it, but then they came out with these preferred stocks. I think there's four of them, and the one I like is STRC, otherwise known as Stretch, and it's basically kind of like if you don't know, we'll go to the page on Fidelity. Here it is. So this is kind of meant to be like a stable coin. If you're in crypto, you should know what a stable coin is. If you're not, it's basically a coin that's meant to stay at a stable price of around $1. But each share of strategy is meant to be at a stable price of around $100. And it pays a pretty nice dividend, much more higher dividend than Coinbase pays on their native stablecoin. I think they're paying like 2.5 or 3% right now. And I think when Stretch first came out, I think it was just like 6 months ago that it came out, the yield was like 8% and it was paid monthly. And so they have these mechanisms in place to try to like keep the price at around $100. Like if it gets too high, they lower the dividend rate. If it gets, or they issue more shares. If it gets too low, they raise the dividend rate. And they've been doing that for like the last several months now. And it's currently at like 11.25%. So, like I said, I sold a bunch of my crypto at the beginning of the year, and this seemed like a pretty good place to park a good portion of that cash. First, like I think at the beginning of this year, I owned only like 10 shares of it, and I had a lot of cash. I put like a bunch of my cash into T-bills at first. That was before learned all the facts about Stretch. I mean, I knew some some things about it. I knew the basics, but I just learned recently that Michael Saylor said that they actually have like enough backup cash, not even counting all the Bitcoin they have. Like, and I don't know if this is still true since the price has been going down, but I know at one point last year, their Bitcoin treasury was like more valuable than Apple or Amazon's treasury. Total value of their treasury, obviously Apple and what's the other one? Amazon. They probably don't have a lot of Bitcoin, if any, in their treasury, but total values, MicroStrategies or strategies as they're now called, their treasury was actually bigger than Amazon and Apple's, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's definitely bigger than Apple's. I'm pretty sure it was bigger than Amazon's. That might have changed. So I guess I can just kind of go through exactly what strategy and Michael Saylor is for those who don't know. So strategy used to be called MicroStrategy. I kind of like disagree with some things that Michael Saylor does, but I also know he's a lot smarter than me. I mean, I'm pretty smart, but I'm not as smart as Michael Saylor, who was like the chairman of strategy. So strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, years ago, they were basically like this software building company, if I'm not mistaken, and they weren't a very good one or not a very successful one. And back then, Michael Saylor was actually critic of Bitcoin, but then they started investing some of their money in Bitcoin, and they started doing so well. They shifted to basically all the company does now is buy Bitcoin. They own like over 600,000 Bitcoin, and then they recently came out with these different preferred stocks that do different things. I know, like one of them, one's called Strike, one's called Stride, and then there's this one called Stretch. And I think there's another one, maybe called Strife, something like that. But they all do different things. They all have different pros and cons. Yeah, the thing about I kind of question about Michael Saylor and strategy is how they seem to buy mostly when the prices are up. It seems to me like it would be a better idea to buy when prices are low. But the thing is that it's actually a lot harder to take out debt when prices are low, and that's what strategy does. They take out debt to buy this Bitcoin. So anyway, they have a whole lot of Bitcoin now, but they also have a cash reserve. And I was like, I didn't know about that when I first started buying Stretch. Um, but then I found out recently that even if Bitcoin goes completely in the toilet, that they got enough cash reserves to pay off the dividends for all their preferred stocks for like the next 2 years. And and then he came out, I guess, this week, one day this week, can't remember exactly when. I think it was like Thursday or yes, I think it was Thursday. And I think this was like right after everything was tanking, including strategy stock. And he did some conference call with, I guess, investors or high investors or something. He explained, and I learned this also from CryptoZRS, but he explained how even if Bitcoin goes to like $8,000, which it's not going to do, but even if it did, it'd have to stay there for several years for them to really be in trouble, for strategy to, go bust. And if Bitcoin just does okay, it'll probably take like 100 years. But with all the Bitcoin they have, they can like borrow against it and they can pay off the dividends for at least like the next 10 years. Basically what he was saying, I guess. And I guess this instilled confidence in investors and market. And so, like I was saying, he, I think he did this because the stock price was going down a lot. And the same thing happened with STRC. The price dropped to uh, almost $93. and I bought the dip. Unfortunately, I didn't get it this low. And like I said, at the beginning of the year, I owned 10 shares and then started learning more about STRC. When I heard about how they had all this backup cash, I decided, yeah, you know what, I got to put more of my cash into this. So I put in an order to buy 30 shares at $98, I think on January 20th, when the price had been at $100 for like over a week, I think. I was just hoping something would happen where it would dip to that level and I'd buy those shares. And then I think it was like a week last week that happened, probably around here. And when that happened, the price started going down. And what I did was, so I had my order actually for 35 shares, 30 for my taxable account and 5 for my Roth account. So I had that for $98. But just to be safe, when the price started dropping and I saw it started to fall, I bought 10 shares when it was like at 98.50, and I think I bought two other shares when it was between 98.50 and $98. And I hit $98 and I was so happy. And like, what is this? Is this yeah, this is the daily chart for STRC. Like maybe I bought around here or here, and then like the next day it was like back at $99 almost. Is that right? No, maybe it was like, yeah, no. Yeah, it's probably here actually. Yeah. Here's where it was like above 100. So I think I bought it around here, those 35 share or 37 shares. Then like the next day got back up to $99. And then we had that thing with the Korean exchange on Thursday, and the price started falling like crazy. Like I don't know, like it's an expression, an anvil off a cliff. Yeah. And so I actually had already an order in place to buy like 5 shares a little below $98, like at 97.77 or something like that. And that got filled somewhere around here. Then when it kept dropping, and I was happy about that, but when I saw it kept dropping, I decided to buy a little bit more. I bought like 4 shares when it was under $97, and I bought another share when it fell below $96. And at that point, I had like less than $100 left in my brokerage account. And to be honest, I was getting a little nervous when it just kept on falling. I could have bought another share below $94. I definitely wish I would have, but I woke up yesterday and the price had recovered. Was it yes? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was back over. It was like at 97.50, over $97. It was still kind of under my cost basis. At that point, my cost basis, well, I had like 71 shares at that point in my taxable account, 5 in my Roth, and my cost basis in my taxable account was under $98 at this point. And then get up this morning and I see that it closed at $98.76, and I was very happy about that. So I made, I don't know, about $50. I'm up about 50 bucks on the shares I bought. But on top of that, I'm going to get pretty good distribution at the next distribution, the next, which is at the beginning of March. You can go here and just take a look exactly. I think it says here. Okay, so the X date is February 13th. So this is the date you need to be holding the stock to qualify for the dividend. And we can see they've been steadily increasing the dividends every month. Last time it was around 92 cents. Before then it was like 90 cents, 88 cents. And this coming month it's going to be almost 94 cents. So on top of me being up $50, and I'm sure it's going to get back to $100 at some point. On top of that, though, I'm going to be getting a a dividend of around 70 bucks. And all of that is going to go back into STRC. That M I'm misty my ulti, which I've not done good on. But yeah, so I'm pretty grateful for that. Grateful that the price dropped and I was able to pick up some STRC at some rock bottom prices, even though unfortunately was not able to do the same on Bitcoin. In addition to that, I also bought one more share of FTEC when the price dropped. And this is a really cool index fund by Fidelity. It's their MSCI Information Technology Index, whatever that means. But this is basically a carbon copy of an old index fund by Vanguard under the ticker single, the ticker symbol VGT. This is a carbon copy of that fund, but this one has a few advantages over the Vanguard fund. So first of all, it has a slightly lower expense ratio. You see it here, it's 8.4 basis points. Now I've watched a lot of oh, forgot to say, well, I'm gonna probably do some kind of disclaimer at the beginning. I should have said in the beginning, this is not financial advice. I'm not a registered financial advisor. So this is just for entertainment purposes. Just take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't buy something just because I bought it. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just kind of like going through what I've been doing recently. But I will say that, like I said, don't. I mean, I doubt anyone even watches this video. I only have like less than 350 subscribers. But what I did is, I'm new at the stock market. I've been in crypto for a while, but just last year I decided to diversify into the stock market a little bit. And I did research on YouTube. And what I did was I would just watch different channels on investing. And when I saw like the same fund being mentioned by several different YouTubers channels, I kind of like looked into it a little deeper. And I heard this one mentioned a lot, FTEC. And I heard a lot of them say that the expense ratio was 8 basis points, but it's actually 8.4, which is pretty good considering the growth of this fund. Take a look over here. I think the lifetime growth is like 20%. It's loading up. So here we go. It has a very small dividend, but this is mostly a fund focused on growth. So I think this NAV return is the return with the dividend. So over the past year is 22%. Over the past 3 years, it's done very well, 34%. Over 5 years, a little lower, 17.3%, but that's still a very, very good return. Over 10 years, just over 22%, and lifetime, just right around 21%. So that's a very good return. I do think maybe possibly the market may have a down year this year. Um, you, with crypto, the year after the inauguration year is always a very bad year. And I've been learning recently that that's the same way with a lot of popular stocks in the S&P 500. I believe the S&P 500 was down in 2022 and 2018. However, that trend could possibly change this year because Trump is bringing in a new Fed chair like in at the end of May, and he's almost certainly going to be slashing rates like crazy, which could be very good for all markets, the stock market and crypto. Yeah, and I was also just remembered one other thing I saw on Crypto R Us last night was he was going through a lot of metrics that seemed to indicate that the bear market for Bitcoin was already coming close to an end. Uh, but I'm pretty sure in like November or December, he probably showed a lot of metrics indicating Bitcoin was going to go up and hit at least 150,000 within the next couple of weeks. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. Um, However, I do think it's possible we do have a shorter bear market this time because of the new Fed chair coming in. But still, I think this could be a down year. It could be a good time to buy stocks. Again, not financial advice. Uh, this may not have like a 20% return this year, but I think over the next 3 years, it'll probably average out to over 20%. And I think probably within the next 3 years, this thing could go up $100 from where it's at. I mean, it's actually down $20 from its all-time high. It actually got to like 240 in October, like the same month Bitcoin hit its all-time high. And I actually started buying this in August and September when it was just over $200. And I remember recently, I think like last week, around the same time, I bought some more stretch. Well, actually, I've been like, yeah, I think I put it, I wanted to buy some more of this. I think maybe I'd already bought some, a couple more shares. I remember the price was like falling one day last week, and I put an order in for to buy a share at $220. And then the next day I saw it didn't get filled, and I checked to see how low it got. Would you believe it got down to $220.01? And then it went back up. I think went up to like 230 and then started coming back down again. And I started buying in when it got to like 225. I think um, I only bought like 0.45 shares when it hit 225, but then as it kept falling, I kept buying more. And most of the shares I bought were at a price above $220, but my cost basis is still below $220 because first of all, I started buying it when it was just over $200, even though I only bought like I think like 2 shares, not even that much. And also on Thursday, when the market was going crazy and there was blood everywhere, I put an order to buy share at 211, and I was very happy to see that got filled, and very happy to see it's up like 4.4 or it closed yesterday's day of trading at 4.4%. Oh yeah, I think I was like kind of got off track. I was explaining about the expense ratio. Like I said, I was doing my research. Can't remember if I said this, but well, I was comparing this to the BGT fund, which like I said, pretty much if you put like the same amount in this fund as you did the Vanguard fund, you're going to get the same return because, like I said, it covers like the exact same um, stocks or companies. This one's like a little better because the Vanguard fund is now over $700, and because this fund came out later, it has a much lower price. And like I said, that doesn't really affect the return you get if you put $220 in this and $220 in the Vanguard fund, your return is pretty much going to be the same. But then there's this vanity, psychological vanity people have about wanting to own complete shares of something. Like if somebody has $220.65, I think they would much rather, you know, buy something that will give them a complete share versus one that will give them one third of a share. That's going to give them the same return overall. And also, this one has a slightly lower expense ratio. I used to think it was like one full basis point lower. And actually, it used to be, well, Vanguard's expense ratio for their fund, which is like the same thing as this one, their VGT, it used to be 10 basis points, but then I guess probably as kind of like a response to this one, even though this one's been out like 10 years, they finally lowered theirs to like 9 basis points. So Now, this one is only like zero point 0.6 basis points lower than Vanguard's fund, but still, that's a little bit better. And if you're not familiar with basis points, basically 100 basis points would equal 1%. And if you have $10,000 into a stock, you'll pay $1 in fees for every basis point the expense ratio is. So this is like close to 8 basis points. So if you had $10,000, you'd basically be paying $8.40. If you have $1,000, you would pay 84 cents in fees. So, like I said, it has a couple of advantages over the Vanguard fund, even though they're basically the same thing. I'm pretty bullish on this fund, even though I think there is a possibility it might not have such a great year this year, but long term, I'm very bullish on this fund. And let's take a look at Bitcoin. All right, so it dropped below 60,000 2 days ago. It's now at around 71,000. Everything is up today. XRP is up 14%. Solana is up 14%. Bitcoin Cash up 16%. Monero is up 12%. So is this good? Does this mean the bear market is over? Well, like Sam was saying, I'm not completely convinced. I mean, this is great that we're up like 10% over the last 24 hours, but I'm not completely convinced the bear market is over. It'd be nice if it is. We'll have to see. Sam from Financial Friend was saying there's probably going to be some resistance at 74,000. If we get rejected from there, according to him, we're probably going to go back a lot lower, which would be fine with me. I would love the chance to another chance to buy Bitcoin at 60,000. I think we probably could drop as low as 50,000. Again, not financial advice. So, but like I said, George from Cryptos R Us, I mean, he's always bullish. I mean, he's pretty convinced the bear market is close to being over at least. I'm not so sure, so I'm not buying yet. I'm not buying back in. I wish I had bought. I wish I had an order in for 60,000 on Thursday. Unfortunately, I didn't, but it's all good. I was able to buy some STRC, some more STRC and FTEC, and they're up. Bitcoin's back up. I still have a pretty decent amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP, even though I sold some at the beginning of the year. So, but whether this leads us to all-time highs in the near future remains to be seen. One other thing I did see, I think it was on Financial Friend, that I guess Trump posted, "Get ready for big gains, get ready for the biggest bull run of all time," something like that. And apparently, the last time he sent out a tweet like that, market went up 40%. But we'll have to see. I think that's gonna about do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. What do you think about STRC? I know most people don't know a lot about it. I don't think I know anyone who really knows anything about it. I've told a couple friends of mine. I don't have a lot of friends, but I think I've actually just, yeah, I've told like two friends of mine about it. They haven't bought any of it. One of them can't buy it because he's from China. But what do you think about STRC? What do you think about Michael Saylor? What do you think about FTEC? What do you think about the stock market this year? Will it be up or down? I don't know. I'm sure, like I said before, I think it's going to be good for markets when the new Fed comes in, but I was expecting Bitcoin to hit a new all-time high. Well, I guess it did, but when Jerome Powell finally started cutting rates in September, I think it was, I was expecting Bitcoin to do a lot better than it did. So, okay, I'm going to end the video here. I think I covered most of what I wanted to cover. Thank you to all my subscribers. As they say in China, is IGN.